confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord. There are moments when hope feels fragile. You pray, but the answer seems delayed. You work faithfully, yet nothing appears to change. You try to stay encouraged, but disappointment quietly creeps into your heart. During those seasons, it becomes tempting to believe that God has forgotten you. David understood those emotions. He spent years running from enemies, hiding in caves, and living with uncertainty. Yet after everything he experienced, he made one of the boldest declarations in Scripture. I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Notice the word remain. David's confidence was not based on a single emotional moment. It was a settled conviction that survived hardship, fear, and unanswered questions. His circumstances changed constantly, but his confidence in God did not. That is the kind of faith the Lord desires to grow within each of us, not a faith that disappears when life becomes difficult, but one that stands firm because it is rooted in God's unchanging character. David did not say, "I hope things get better." He declared that he would see the goodness of the Lord. He believed that God's goodness was not confined to heaven alone, but would also be experienced during his earthly life. Sometimes God's goodness appears through an unexpected opportunity. Sometimes it comes through the comfort of his presence in sorrow. Other times it is revealed only when we look back and realize how faithfully he guided us through situations we never could have handled on our own. God's goodness is often easier to recognize in hindsight than in the middle of the journey. Then David gives a simple but challenging command: wait for the Lord. It is interesting that he repeats it twice, as if he is preaching to his own heart. Waiting on God is rarely easy because it requires us to surrender control. We naturally want immediate answers, but God often works through seasons of waiting because waiting teaches us dependence. It strips away our illusion of self-sufficiency and reminds us that our lives are safely held in his hands. The verse continues, "Be strong and take heart." This strength is not the kind that comes from pretending everything is fine. It is the quiet courage that comes from trusting God's promises even when your emotions are unsettled. Biblical courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing faith despite fear. David faced giants, armies, betrayal, and personal failure, yet through every season he learned that true strength comes from drawing near to the Lord rather than relying on himself. Think about how often God accomplishes his greatest work during periods that seem unproductive. Before Joseph became a ruler, he spent years in prison. Before Moses led Israel, he spent decades in the wilderness. Before Jesus began his public ministry, he lived many ordinary years in Nazareth. God's timetable is never rushed. He prepares both his servants and his purposes with perfect wisdom. What feels like a delay to you may actually be God's loving preparation for something greater than you currently imagine. If you're waiting today for healing, direction, restoration, provision, or a breakthrough, don't lose heart. The silence of God is not the absence of God. While you cannot always see his hands at work, he has never stopped working for your good. Every day that passes is another day closer to the fulfillment of his perfect plan. The Lord has not forgotten your prayers, and he has not overlooked your tears. So hold on to the confidence that David discovered. Refuse to let temporary circumstances define your eternal hope. Continue seeking the Lord with a patient heart, trusting that his goodness will become clear in his perfect time. One day you will look back and realize that every season of waiting was woven into a story of grace that only God could write. Until then, be strong, take heart, and wait for the Lord, not with despair, but with joyful expectation, knowing that the God who has always been faithful will continue to be faithful for the rest of your life and throughout all eternity.